pointer this morning. On the point you gave us. I've read into the Zach. Okay. So yesterday, with Gemara that was discussing Rav and Shmuel, who both agreed to the same halacha. And that was that if you don't have Adam that you were employed, the employer has a migoi that he could have said, you never worked for me. He's then want to say that I had already paid you. And both Rav and Shmuel agreed to that. Now we have a little bit of a new sugya. Yesterday we learned quite clearly in the Brisa that the discussion of a employer not having clarity as to whether or not he paid only applies before he would be over Baltacher, and it only applies to whether he paid or not, but it doesn't apply to the rate of pay that was agreed upon. And for the rate of pay that's agreed upon, we say we believe the employer, right? Yeah. Now we have a little bit of a difference of opinion. From the Bishmidrash of Rav, they sent a shalat to Shmuel. Yilamdenu Rabbeinu, Rebbe teach us. Umen oimer shtayim katzatztali. The Umen says, we made up. You're going to pay me $200 for the day. Allah Amar, and the employer says, Loi katzatzti loch ela achas. I only said that I'm going to pay you $100 for the day. So really, I'm not saying for the day is not accurate because an Umen is not a day employee; it's a contract employee, right? So the job was going to be 200, and the owner, the employer, said the job was going to be 100. Mi nishba, who swears? So right off the bat, you see Shmuel holds Rav holds the Shavuos, right? Now, based on what we learned, there's no Shavuos, right? So right away you see that Rav is disagreeing with the Brisa, right? Omer lahed. So Shmuel answered, Bizu, in this case, Yishava balabayis v'yafsid. Instead of, like in the case of whether I paid or not, the Uman gets to swear and the balabayis is yafsid. Here, the balabayis swears and the Uman is yafsid. Why? Because ketzitza vadai mitker de kiri inchi. That we say that the balabayis, the employer, cannot swear because he's not sure that's whether he paid or not at the end of a busy day. But what the contract amount was, that surely the balabayis remembers. Frank the Gemara, Eini, is this so? Is Rav's whole what he names on, is Rav's whole assumption correct that there's even a Shavuos there? For Tani Rabba Bar Shmuel, which is, I believe, the same Brisa quoted yesterday on Daf Mem Hey, right? Right? Katats, if it's a question of how much money we made up to pay, and below Maiseraya Paka. And it's masha from that Brisa that if the employee cannot bring a raya, if the contractor cannot bring a raya that the agreed upon fee was higher, but according to you, Rav, and now Shmuel, Amai, Yishva Balabayis, V'Yavsaduman. Why do you just say raya? It seems like according to Rav and Shmuel, we're Machayiv the Balabayis a Shvuah. Maskim, but you need a Shvuah. That I don't have to swear anything. If you want more money, you got to prove that I promise you more money.
That's on the Ummah.
That's on the Ummah. The Ummah is the Moitzi Mechaber. That's right. So why would the Balabais have to swear? According to Shmuel, the Balabais would have to swear. Omar Nachman, the way I would explain the Tani Rabba Bar Shmuel is the Brisa is not conclusive. Rather, the Brisa really means let's start Katani. The Brisa gives two options. Oy may be raya v'yita. The Ummah either has an option to bring a raya that this was their rate of pay that they discussed, and then he gets to claim it. But if he can prove it, the Balabayis, or Yishava Balabayis v'yafsud, then we still demand the shvu of the Balabayis. So if you look at the words of the Brisa, all it says is Katat hamoitzi mechaver al avaraya. That's true. But if not, it doesn't say what if not. If not, don't assume it's paka. If not, we will still be mechayiv the Balabayis to swear. Meisei Frank the Gemara from another Brisa that seems to contradict what Shmuel said. Hanoisin talisoi l'umen, and the umen oimar katzat talishtayim. The umen says we made up $200 for this service. Very similar case, right? If the umen is holding the talis, I have collateral. I'm not going to release your beged until you pay me in full based on what I claim you owe me. So then I'll balabais lahabiraya, because as Rashi says, the umen is holding the beged. But nos noloy, what if he already returned the beged? So now I don't have, the umen has no leverage. Bismanoi, if it's within the period of time of Baltacher, meaning the balabais was not over Baltacher yet, then nishba v'noitel. Then the umen swears. The umen swears, and he takes. So he swears. We made up $200, and the balabais will have to pay him $200. But over zmanoi, if it's after the time of Baltacher, then we say amoitze mechaver alavarai. And if you remember yesterday, we said because there's two chazakas that say the balabais is paid. A, he won't want to be over Baltacher, and B is an umen would never wait so long to claim. So therefore, the balabais could say amoitze mechaver alavarai. So we have three cases over here, right?
But always money means what? Day.
Past the period of Baltacher. So if the work was done by day, it would be the next morning. So we have three halachas in this brisa. Talis biyadomin, bismanai, and shaloi bismanai, and we're going to focus on bismanai. Bismanai, what does it say? Nishpa v'noitel. Who swears? The umen swears. Well, that's not what the conclusion of Rav and Shmuel was. Rav and Shmuel was that the balabais could swear that I don't know you so much, that we made up only $100. Yet the brisa says bismanai miya nishpa v'noitel. Amai, according to Rav and Shmuel, Yishva balabayis v'yafsed umen. So we have Mamash Astira. The Brisa says that the Yad Ha'umen is al yoino, and he could swear and take, while Rav and Shmuel say the Yad Ha'balabayis al yoino, and he could swear and only pay the lower amount. Correct. This is only if there's no collateral. So this is our problem now. We have a kasha from our Brisa on Rav and Shmuel. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. You know, there's a machloikis tanoim about this scenario. If the umen claims, I said I would pay, you said you'd pay me 200. The balabai say, I said I would pay you 100. There's a machloikis tanoim who swears. One Tana holds that the balabai swears and he doesn't have to pay, and the other man says no, the umen swears and the balabai does have to pay. And who is the shita who argues on Rav and Shmuel? This brisa that we're quoting, that says Nishba v'noitel, Mani Rabbi Yehudi. That's going according to Rabbi Yehuda, but Rav and Shmuel will claim that we hold like the Rabbanan that would argue in Rabbi Yehuda. Who's Rabbi Yehuda? The Omar calls man. Sheshvu anoita etel balabais, schir Nishba v'noitel. Rabbi Yehuda has a shita. No matter what, no matter when. Whenever there's going to be a shvuah placed on the balabais, you never let the balabais swear. That the kana that Chachamim made was that shvuah always gets transferred to the schir to swear and collect. But Rav and Shmuel don't hold like Rabbi Yehuda; they hold like the Rabban. So now the Gemara needs to know: you can't just pick a name out of your hat and say this is his mandamar, that's my mandamar. You have to show the bride. So you have to illustrate where they had such a discussion. So, frankly, hi Rabbi Yehuda. Where did Rabbi Yehuda say such a thing that whenever the shvuah is by the balabayis, it gets transferred over to the schir? To the benefit of the schir, right? That helps the schir, right? Ilema Rabbi Yehuda the Mistis. If you can tell me that the Rabbi Yehuda of our Mishnah, because in the Rabbi Yehuda of our Mishnah we see that there was a shvuah that was supposed to be by the balabayis. He was a moed b'miktas, right? He said, "I paid you a little bit, but not all," right? And that shvuah got transferred to the schir. It can't be because achmuri kamachmer. We know that Rabbi Yehuda is machmer over the Rabbanan. If you look at the perspective of the employee, Rabbi Yehuda is being machmer because Rabbanan say even for a koil, we allow the employee to swear and take. Rabbi Yehuda says no, by a koil we wouldn't. It's only by a place where there's a chiv shuda rice anyway. By a moed b'miktas, that's when we let the soicher swear. So Rabbi Yehuda is machmir over the Rabbanan. So if the Rabbi Yehuda is machmir over the Rabbanan, if Rabbi Yehuda is siding normally with the employer against the employee, why would you say over here that Rabbi Yehuda would side with the employee and let him swear how much the contract is for? Right here, we want to say that Rabbi Yehuda argues on the Rabbanan. Rav and Shmuel are going according to the Rabbanan, who hold we side with the employer and he gets to swear, right? And the bride that we brought that shows that the woman can swear, that's Rabbi Yehuda. That means Rabbi Yehuda is being makel on the employee. But from our Mishnah, you see Rabbi Yehuda was machmer on the employee, right? The Rabban said in all cases the employee could swear, while Rabbi Yehuda says only if it's a case of moedim mitzvahs. So either Rabbi Yehuda mistakes nachmur kamachmur that's non-milut in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda aimer achet tehei sham mitzvahs haidah. So you can't tell me that Rabbi Yehuda is mekel with the employee, and you see that from our Mishnah. Because if you compare Rabbi Yehuda to Rabbanon, Lagabi the Rabbanon, Rabbi Yehuda is very machmer on the employee, because he only allows the employee to swear if there was already a Shavuos moedim mitzvahs. Ella, we need to find another Rabbi Yehuda that we can show holds Lakula that the employee would swear and claim what he said he was going to be paid. Ella Rabbi Yehuda the Brisa. So where is the Brisa? The Tanya. Schir. Calls man shaloi over alav zmanoi hareza nishpa v'noitel. This is pretty clear cut. The imlav einoi nishpa v'noitel. The Amar Rabbi Yehuda said, "Emasai bisman she'amar loy ten litzchari chamishim dinner sheyesh li biyatcha v'amar hiskabalta mehen dinner zov." So there's a moed b'mitzas. Oy she'omer lo shtayim kotzatzta. So here you say beferish. Rabbi Yehuda expresses an opinion in the case of katzitza as well, right? Which is the exact discussion that Rav and Shmuel had, that we had a kash on him from the Brisa, right? There, Rabbi Yehuda says beferish. You transfer the shvua to the employee. So this is the Rabbi you're talking about. But if he has a migoy, or he actually claimed I never hired you, then then so let's look at what we have over here. We do have a Rabbi Yehuda that we could point to who holds that a schir swears even when it's a shayla k'tzitzas dam. So therefore, we could blame that brisa that we asked Akasha on Rav and Shmuel. We could blame that brisa on Rabbi Yehuda. Let's look at that brisa again. The case of the brisa was Hanoisen Talisha Lomin, Umanamar Katatzi Lishtayim, Velomer Katati Ella Achas, Kozman Shtaus Be'erumen Al Balabais Laviraya, Nos No Lebizmano Nishba V'Noitel. So this Nishba V'Noitel was shver on Rav and Shmuel, right? This Nishba V'Noitel fits perfectly in according to Rabbi Yehuda, this brisa, who says by Ketzitza as well to Nishba V'Noitel.
On the Uman.
That's right. So you see that Rabbi Yehuda benefits the Uman, that the Uman could be Nishba V'Noitel. The problem is we still have a massive problem because we have a Rabban. Ma'azakala Rabbi Shisa Bar Davidi. Elakotzat Rabbi Yehuda. You're going to say the rise of Ketzitza, where we err on the side of the employee and we let the employee swear what the deal was, and then we take it away from the owner, right? That's Rabbi Yehuda, v'loy Rabbanan. You want to say it's not going according to Rabbanan, because the whole point is we need Rav and Shmuel to hold like the Rabbanan. And Rav and Shmuel say that the owner would swear, right? The problem is, it doesn't make any sense. Because Hashta, Heichi de Machmir Rabbi Yehuda, Mekili Rabbanan, even in this brisa that we just quoted, even Rabbi Yehuda is Machmir over the Rabbanan from the position of the employee. Because what does the brisa say? The brisa quotes to Rabbanan as saying that even by Koifer HaKoil, the employee gets to swear. Rabbi Yehuda's Machmir says, no, by Koifer HaKoil, the employee doesn't get to swear. He only gets to swear by Moedim Mitzvahs. So in this brisa, you see Rabbi Yehuda is sides more with the employer than with the employee, because he doesn't know that the employee signed. So how could you tell me that Rabbi Yehuda is mekel by Ketzitza and the Rabbanan wouldn't be madef? Punktgekehrt. Heicha de mekel Rabbi Yehuda machmir Rabbanan. So hashta heicha de machmir Rabbi Yehuda mekli Rabbanan. Even Rabbi Yehuda holds that we don't let the employee swear. In the case of Koifer HaKol, the Rabbanan still side with the employee and they let him swear, right? So hashta the makol Rabbi Yehuda. So in the case of Ketzitza, where even Rabbi Yehuda holds, in the case of Moed B'Miktas, that the woman swears, are you going to tell me Machmi Rabbanan? Over there, the Rabbanan will be Machmer and say that the Balabaya swears? That doesn't make any sense. Because based on our understanding currently of the Machlokes, Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan always tied with the employee and always let the employee swear, even by a Koifer HaKoil. So if that's the case, so if Rabbi Yehuda holds they can swear by Ketzitza, the Rabbanan should also say you could the employee could swear by Ketzitza.
Is that the chumrah of the Balabais?
It's a chumrah from the employee's perspective. right? So you could twist the whole thing around. If he's makel on the balabais here, for sure you should make on the balabais over there. Any way you look at it, it's very hard to say that the Rabbanon would disagree with Rabbi Yehuda about Ketitza, right? Because they're more noita to allow the claimant, the uman, to swear and collect. So that means you're going to say that the Rabbanon also agree. The Rabbanon also agree to Rabbi Yehuda that by Ketitza the uman swears, right? Well, if that's the case, if everybody holds that the uman swears, Tani Rabbi Bar Shmuel, Katzatz Hamoitzi Mechaveri Oliver Raya, and there's and even you're going to learn that the Balabaya swears money. Now we're stuck. How do we understand the brisa of Rabbi Bar Shmuel? We also have a problem with Rav and Shmuel. Who are they going to hold like, right? Who are they going to hold like? And we have a brisa that says Hamoitzi Mechaveri Oliver Raya, and even though we learned it that if you can't bring a raya, then the Adon still has to swear. But still, who owes the Adon to swear and take? We would let the Uman swear and collect. We wouldn't let the Balabai swear and not pay. So this brisa doesn't have an author, and we have a problem. Who's Rav and Shmuel going to hold like? Elo Amar Rava B'Hakamav. We're going to go back to the same shot that it's Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanon. What was your whole problem? Your whole problem is if the Rabbanon normally side with the employee, so he for sure should side with the employee in the case of a discussion of how much the rate of pay was, right? That's not true. There's two different svars. The reason why Rabbi Yehuda requires a moedim miktsas, and that happens to be a case where he will be machmar an employee, that has one reason. Ketitza is a completely separate child. So you can't draw a conclusion and say, because the Rabbanim are makel over here, they're makel over there. They're two separate childs, and now we're going to explain what the separate childs are. When it comes to the case of discussion whether or not I was paid, where Rabbi Yehuda says that the only time the woman could swear is if it was a case of moedim miktas, the reasoning for it is as follows. Rabbi Yehuda savar b'deraisa avdulei tekata. If there is already a shvu deraisa placed upon the moedim miktas, meaning placed upon the balabayis, then we make a takanta and we put it to the schir. And we say this Shavuous of moedim miktas, that the balabayis was able to swear and not pay the schir, will transfer to the schir, will let him swear and collect. Right? The balabayis says, I paid you, I'm asking, I owe you some money, but I did pay you part. So then the balabayis would have to swear that they paid part. So that Shavuot, we transfer over to the schir. The schir says you didn't pay me part, and you make the balabais payment full.
That's nothing to do with you agreed on to run it over.
No, it's a different child. That's correct. So Rabbi Yehuda suffered b'deraisa abdullah tekanta l'schir u'v'derabanon. But if it's a case of kofer hakoil, then even the fact that the balabais would have to swear b'chlal is a tekanta. So you want to make a tekana and tell the balabais to swear, then you want to double up on the tekana and take the shuvah away from the balabais and give it to the schir. You don't do that with the tekanta lo yavdinon. But the Rabbanan savi, the Rabbanan nami avdinon tekanta. By the Rabbanan, you also make a tekanta l'schir. So that's the machlokes over there. Do you make a tekana l'tekana? Now, Tosfos explains, nobody holds you can make a tekana l'tekana. The Rabbanan say the original tekana was to put it on the schir. It wasn't in two stages. The original tekana was to put it on the schir. Uktitza, what's the child of Uktitza? That's a whole different question. That's a mitkedacher. The whole child of Uktitza, as to whether or not the balabais could swear or not, is whether or not you hold that the balabais remembers. Remember, on the base we discussed that whether or not he paid at the end of the day in the confusion, he might not have remembered. But how much we made up to pay that the balabais would remember. But maybe the Rabbanan hold on like that. So Rabbi Yehuda holds he would remember. That's Rabbi Yehuda holds that the balabais. I'm sorry. The Rabbanan hold the balabais would remember, and therefore the Rabbanan hold that the balabais could swear, and that's what Rav and Shmuel hold. But Rabbi Yehuda holds no. Even by Ketitza, the balabais will not remember, and therefore the even there the uman will swear. So it's really two separate machlokes, and it's not on whose side we're erring. Okay, without it. Now the question here is, according to Rabbi Yehuda, where there's only a chiv of moedim miktas. So I say you owe me $200. You say you only owed me $100, right? So that's also a case of moedim miktas, right? So let's just look at Tosfos over here. Zok Tosfos, loy katzasti loch elechot, al koichak Ari, going to Omar, shadayin loy pura oisachas. It has to be where the balabais didn't even pay that one yet. The ipara kvar, if he had already paid, so now how will they koi for akoil? It's no longer a moed mitzvahs because you're loaning me another $100. I'm saying I don't owe to you. That's right. But if I didn't pay you yet, then you have a case of moed mitzvahs. Ubesamach makmin lach Rabbi Yehuda, the boy of mitzvahs. Rabbi Yehuda is the mitzvahs. The kosher frektosis, the over's manoi, by over's manoi, the Brisa said that it's a moed mechaber al harayah, right? The problem is, from a first little timer, the reason that the Gemara said earlier, why it's a moed mechaber al harayah, is mechazok ein balabayis over b'val tolim, and v'etchim masher schora. V'acha harei hishav harei over. Over here, in fact, if we made up more, both those things happened already. So if that's the case, you don't say, you shouldn't say moed mechaber al harayah. Yeah. Okay. Let's see the Gemara weiter. So look at the Ritosh Rabbanan Sabri, the Rabbanan Mavin Takanto. Let's just look at the last line. Aval Hacha Meikara Misaknigala Alaschir. It wasn't done in two stages. They set it up originally. Okay. So Zok Tahelu Gemara weiter. Zok to Gemara, we had another case. Of Nigzal Ketzad Hoyu Meidin Oisoi Shenichnas Leveisai Lemishkanai. What was the case? Adam saw that the mob unlawfully broke into my house, but Adam didn't see him take anything. I claim he took something. He claims he didn't. I have a right to swear that he took something, and then he'll have to pay me for whatever it is. Right? Correct them, or just because they saw me come into the house, maybe he didn't take anything. I mean, is that really enough of a reglaimodover that he could be nishba v'noitel? And you're going to say, it's mamish reglaimodover, everything looks like that's what happened. I'll show you that even if that's what it looks like, you don't necessarily pass in that way. Miloi, Amar of Nachman, Haiman de Noket Nagabiyode. A guy has a chainsaw, and he says, I'm going to go cut down Yankel's tree. And sure enough, the next day, the next day they found Yankel's tree cut down. So that's pretty obvious who did it, right? Zok Gemara, we don't assume he did it. Lo yaminan du katle. Elo ovid inish the gosim ovid. People make wild threats when people are angry and passionate. They say things, but they don't always mean them. So the fact that he said he would do it is absolutely not a right that he did it. So here too, he was all angry, wanted to go collect. But who said he did? Zok Gemara, hakanami the gosim ovid. Zok Gemara, true. Maybe the case where you could be mechayiv a Shavuah and the Nigzal is Nishba V'noitel is Umishkanoi. The Adam saw him take. If the Adam saw him take, there's nothing to talk about a Shavuah. Asked Adam what he took. The less in my Mishkanoi. Amar Rabba Barbachana Amar B'yochanon B'toynoi Kelem Anitlin Tachas Kanofov. There's a machlekes showing him what this means. Either it means that the Adam claimed that they saw he took something, there was stuff under his beged, but they couldn't see exactly what he took. So that's where these Neman. There are those who say where the Adam claim, yes, we saw him take cups, 3 of them in his hand. And the Balabais claims, yeah, there are 3 in his hand, but there were another 3 under his beged. So that's what the Shaila is. There's a long Tosfos about it. Okay. Zog to Gemara weiter. This Tosfos just introduces what is the Shaila Tolian. Very, very simple. If you learn that it's speaking, where they saw I took 3 cups, and Balbais claims there's 6 more, so does that have a din of a Shavuos moed b'mitzvos or not? We know that if I mon you 100 and you're moed 50, that's moed b'mitzvos. But what if I mon you 100, you say you owe me 0, but I have Adam that say you owe me 50? Do the Adam mechayiv you a Shavuot? Could the Adam be your moed b'mitzvos for you? So that's what this case would be. So that's what Tosfos gets into. It's a long Tosfos into whether or not you have a Raf Mar Gemara. That's what Tosfos, if you learn that the Adam didn't see anything, then you don't have a Raf Mar Gemara.
So the Adam saw him with 3.
The Adam saw him with 3. So he said he didn't take anything. The Adam saw him with 3. And I claim, and the Nizal claims there was 3 more. So that's not a moed makes us, but it's a case where Adam were made on makes us. So there's a shaila if there would be a shul because the Gemara makes kal chaymer. Madach is moed makes us kol shkein between come. Zok to Gemara vayt. Amar Rabbi, now that we're talking about nitlan tachas knafov, we get into a tangent. Amar Rabbi, we don't get into a tangent, we get off on a tangent. Amar Rabbi Yehuda ra'u sheitmin kaleb tachas knafov yot. What if someone comes into your house and we see him leaving with kalim hidden under his blanket, and he leaves, and he claims that he bought it from you. So Yankel comes into your house and he walks out with kalim that are hidden. He claims he bought them from you, and you say you didn't buy them from me. You borrowed them, and I expect you to give them back to me, right? So that is the question: who do you believe? The Omar, and he said, Yankel said he bought them from you, and you say, no. You just borrowed them. I want my lawnmower back. So the halach is Einoi Nema. The person who took it from you is not believed to say that they're mine, even if he swears. You don't believe him that he bought it. These were lent to you by Rabbi Yisrael. However, there's 4 conditions, maybe even 5. I think 4 conditions that have to be met in order to assume that these kalim were borrowed and not purchased. When do we say the assumption is that it wasn't sold, it was just lent? That's if Rabbi Yisrael doesn't normally sell his pots and pans. He keeps them for himself. But if he has a kijiji business and a garage sale business where he's always selling his own things to buy new things, well, then that assumption is out the window. So when can you say that I didn't sell it to you if that's not what you normally do? Aval balabayis also limkar eskelov, then Nemon, Yankel will be Nemon to say I bought it from you. But there's another condition in order for the balabayis to be believed. V'she'ein also limkar eskelov nami, even if you normally didn't sell your kalim, still loyamorin eladvarim shein dakar lahatmin. These are things that if you would buy them, you wouldn't hide them. If you had a pot and pan, you would walk out with it. You wouldn't put it in a paper bag. Here, the fact that it came out hidden indicates that it wasn't purchased. It was borrowed, and the borrower was embarrassed that people should see that he has to borrow things like pots and pans, so that's why he concealed it. So the concealment in and of itself supports the balabayis's claim that he only lent it out, it wasn't sold. And even if Aval Dvarim Shadak on the hotman would have things that normally you hide anyway, Nemon is Nemon to say that he purchased it because that's a normal way to buy it. Now, even if Vishain Dakar the hotman, Nami, even if it's something that you normally would not hide, and Vibali is hiding it, we say it's an indication that he borrowed it, it's still not an indication that he borrowed it. Only a person who doesn't mind if people see when he buys in the store, he doesn't mind if people see what he bought. But somebody who, even when he buys, he hides everything. He doesn't want anybody to know what he bought. Hainu urche, that is the derech of how he operates, and therefore you don't have a raya that it was lent out. And one more condition. I think this is condition number 4, right? In his tniya, and the 4th is that's only if the claim of the balabayis is that they're lent out. But if the balabayis claims that this guy stole it, lav kol kaminei lachzuke inish, lav kol kaminei, he wouldn't be believed. The balabayis wouldn't believe the guy's a ganev, he broke into his house, because lachzuke inish begamve loy machskechina. You don't have a right to make somebody into a ganev. And one more thing, of course, these are only talking about if it's kalim that you normally do lend out. Because if it's kalim that you would never lend out, you can't. I wouldn't be believed to say that I lent it to him. What? Then I could say, then in this case, the guy who took it would be never say that he bought it. Yeah. Okay, and how do we know this? The Shalach Rav Huna bar Avin, that there are certain things that the fact that you're holding on to them don't give you a chazak. The Vorim Asum Lahashku Lahasker, you have, we know it was my pot. Now you're holding on to my pot. It's normal that people lend out pots. And you claim that no, the reason why you have my pot is because you bought it and you're a muksik, and the muksik doesn't help you. Because there's a very easy way to explain that away. The reason why you have it is not because I sold it to you, it's because I lent it to you. Right? Yeah. So therefore, that your muksik on dvarim ha'asuin lahashul asker is not a good muksik, because you don't have it because you bought it. You have it because you borrowed it.
What did he see like if he's gonna end up giving it back? What's if he bought it or he borrowed it?
No, if you bought it, you mean you're going to keep it. You have a keli of mine, and you say you bought it, you don't want to give it back. And I say you didn't buy it, I lent it to you, right? So if it's something that normally people don't lend out, we say Hakadosh Kakapra, you lent it. If you wouldn't have lent him this, if he has it, he probably bought it. Okay. That's the Shalach Avuna Baravin Dvar Masun Lahashkul Lahasker V'Amel Kuchen and Biyadi Einoinem Ki Hada Rava Apek Zug the Sarbala. There was an estate where the Yisraelim had in their estate a scissor that cuts that people who comb begodim use. It's something that's often lent out. And now the Yisraelim claimed this is in the estate. The Tsars were muksa. Rava said, no. We know who it belongs to, and your father probably borrowed it. Or V'Sifra Dagadita, or Svarim Avagadita, also it's normal to lend them out. Miyasmi, he took those away from Yisraelim from the estate and he gave it back to its original owner. Bidvarim hasuyin lahashul lahask. Because the fact that it's in their rishus does not mean anything. Okay, gewaltig. I forgot to mention, we were talking about employees. If they can't prove that they worked for the employer, then they don't have any claim at all. So were you there when I said over the story with the fellow who bought a new factory? And he wanted to see who are the good workers and who are the bad workers, because he knew that there were issues that he had to tighten up to make it proper. Oh yeah, oh, okay. Omar Rava. I forgot to say it in the morning. I keep on forgetting it in the morning, but I'm busy. Omar Rava. Afilu shomer nishpa. When we're talking about this nigzal can swear about what the Goslin took, it doesn't have to be the Bailam. It could be a shomer. If I hired you to watch my stuff, you can also swear about what was taken. And afilu ishta shel shomer nishpas, because they're also responsible for it, so they also would be nemon to say what was stolen. What about schira ulakitai? I have an apprentice. I have workers who work for me. They also are pretty aware of what I have and what I don't have, but they're not commissioned to specifically to watch those items. Will they also be nemon to swear about what the gospel took? My zok gemar take. Amalei Rabbi Yemar l'Ravashi. Rabbi Yemar said the following to Ravashi. What happens if Tanu, because of the gospel, he claimed that, you know what this fellow stole from me? Very, very expensive silver koisos. Now, nowadays, everybody has a silver kois. It's not a big deal. But imagine if today I would say you stole a $20,000 Rolex. Maybe it costs more Rolex. I don't even know what a Rolex costs. But a $20,000 Rolex. Would you believe me with a shvua to be able to mum that $20,000 from the gospel? It's an unlikely thing that I would have. You see, if the guy who's making this claim is a very rich guy, and it makes sense that he has such expensive items in his house, then you believe him. Or even if he's not a rich guy, but he's someone who people really trust, and people would leave things by him for safekeeping, then he could swear and take, because it's logical to assume that he had those things. But if it's totally outlandish, we would not believe him to collect, because it doesn't make sense that he had those things. That's like a fake insurance claim. What about the case where a guy was nechbal and he's swearing about his chavala to make the chayvel pay? You know I have to swear because it's possible to explain my chavala that it didn't happen through the chayvel. Maybe I did it to myself. So I have to swear that I didn't do it to myself, he did it to me. But what if it was a scenario where it would be impossible for him to have got those wounds unless the Yener did it to him? Then they're not to because what else possibly could have happened? Practically, what do you mean? Even if he couldn't have done it to himself, maybe he banged himself against the wall. Tanya Rabchia, you know what the case is where we say you're noitel shaloi b'shvua when there's no possible explanation other than this guy did it. Either he has bite marks, teeth marks on his back. A person can't bite his back, unless in the joke that I said over with the banker. the better. But I'll tell you that later. But that had to have come from this other guy, or Vinitil Yodav, or a place like by his elbow where your mouth can't reach. So if there's a bite marks there, that couldn't happen by a koshel. That had to happen from another person, and the other person is the other guy. So therefore, you wouldn't have to swear. Maybe a third party was there who bit him. So in a case where it's impossible that this wound came upon him through any other means other than the kenegdoi, then no shvu would be necessary. The Mishnah says, even if the false shvu that I made wasn't a false shvu defrauding somebody of money or of an edus, it was mamish shvu shav, it was nobody's business, it was a nonsense shvu. I swore al omid shel even shu eitz or shu sazov, right? Even that disqualifies me to make a shvu. Zokamaya filu shvu shav, lo mi boy kamer, lo mi boy hanach the isbu kfir moment. These shvuos have kfir's moment, so therefore, sure, if you lied, you're not never b'shvu. Once you violate such a shvua, we don't trust you for shvuos anymore. There's another type of shvua that doesn't impact anybody else that the Gemara didn't list, that the Mishnah didn't list. I swear that I'm going to eat an apple today, and I didn't eat an apple today. Why isn't that listed? If I violated such a shvua, I'm also possible for shvua. So because there you wouldn't be possible shvua. You know why? The only type of shvua that disqualifies you to swear is a shvua that when you made the shvua, it was a shvua sheker. Shvuas bitoy, where you're swearing that I'll eat an apple. When you swore, you meant the ganze heart you're going to eat the apple. Later on, you didn't eat the apple. But b'shat shvua, you made a kosher shvua. So therefore, shvuas bitoy, the ikol memar, the bekush to kamishtaba, they're like katani, that wouldn't possibly affect the shvua. Okay, but there's different types of shvuas bitoy. What about a shvuas bitoy on elisha avar? But what about a chalti beloy chalti? There, the moment it came out of your mouth, it was a lie. So that for sure should have been listed in the Mishnah as a shvuas bitoy. Michael and Emer, you're right. When the Mishnah said a shvuah shav, it means any similar shvuah, even though it doesn't impact a transaction of money. We still, if you were over such a shvuah, you would be possible to make a shvuah in the future.
But where's the cushion in good faith?
Yeah, when you made it, you planned to eat that apple. Right. But what happened was something happened, you didn't eat it. The Baruch Hashem, we were to finish Mem Vav, tomorrow's Mem Zayin.